Here we are again. I'm with the beautiful Juan Jose. Sorry, I keep on pronouncing your name wrong. I've got a friend that's called Jose, so I always go with Jose.
Yeah, that's
Juan Jose, uh,
that's fine.
who's going to be doing a reading for me today on my soul journey, and very excited to sort of go through that process. And yeah, if you'd like to begin, just going through that process with me. I don't know what to expect or what you're going to ask, but I'm
Well,
free.
let's start with the information that we have been sharing previously, and that's important to start by the birth date because mostly our soul contract is definitely being defined by our birth date. In that numerology of our birth date is imprinted what we have been decided to do previously from our higher dimensional level and to participate and to facilitate humanity with this process of awakening. So from that information that you were kindly had been giving me, I have been getting quite of a clear vision of your projection to expand the consciousness of humanity into that infinite potential. That's your mission, and that is our intention from the higher dimensional levels. Your number is 35. Coincidentally, you are the first masculine with this opening. I have had previous conversations with other masculines, of course, but you come openly with that transparency of the soul, which is giving the communication to the five-dimensional, multidimensional, universal understanding of what we are doing here. So that 35 of your birth date is coincidentally with the 35 number of my home. So where I live is also 35. And this has been confirmed during many evidences and experiences and numerology and contrast with other souls with this mission here on Earth, that the number 8 in numerology is the synonym of the translation of the infinite. Your family situation, what you are doing for the GPMS is also your soul project to unite people through a financial system which is going to cooperate and to collaborate and facilitate for the unity of humanity into one divine consciousness in which money is in service of humans, not humans in service of money. That's a quite different perspective of reality. And as we had been talking previously, humanity through history has been giving the energies to lies. The human energies have been given to lies, to wars, to money, and to artificial intelligence for control, power, and domination. So the universe is not controlling, is not having power over humanity. Humanity have free will. What the universe is doing to prevent humanity to suffer. Humanity is a collective organism, and you are a cell, conscious cell, awakening with your mission, and I'm also a conscious cell awakening with my mission, and we share this noble sovereignty of our souls. You project that five-dimensional understanding in your intention, and that is what other souls are doing. And I'm really grateful for you with your masculine energies from the UK, because this is part also of the divine master plan. That is part of the divine timing, the divine providence, and the divine intervention, which we are all are part consciously or unconsciously. The preference of the soul is to be conscious, and that is what we are all working for, to get this level of consciousness in that five-dimensional understanding of our existence. Our global existence with the universal existence has to be united, and money seems to be that wall in which humanity has been facing that mental fear to disconnect from the energy. So the important thing for humans is to understand that in this co-creation is an open field in which we all cooperate, and there is not that low level of consciousness in which people might have been needing to retaliate because they were not getting from this reality what they were expecting from the master creation. We are coming through that potential, and what you are bringing through your project in GPMS, which I support in that level of unity with people, just to increase the numbers is important. But what is important here is to activate our divine multidimensional faculties. And once that we have got that feeling of our energies, we are balancing our endocrine system, all the hormones working in our brain, the endorphin, dopamine, adrenaline, testosterone, all of those energies, which is a cocktail of chemical compound of energies which are determining how our brain is functioning. There is where we get our stability, emotional stability, mental equilibrium, and that is where we can work together in that process of co-creating a divine reality from humanity, losing any kind of fear of misunderstanding of our purpose on Earth. So I feel that your energies are opening from the UK, that connection. You know that the master plan initially was meant for Sepharad. At the time that the master plan was issued 1700 years ago, Sepharad was a united land, which is Portugal and Spain. And in 1898 in Paris, the Spanish and the Portuguese, through that effort to bring humanity into this process, were no longer able to continue, so they were giving that contract to the Anglo-Saxons, to the British Crown. This is uniting from that masculine perspective, your energies, your noble, sovereign, noble soul, in your intention from the UK, and the connection that we have now in Spain. And that is a very important bridge, because in this process, normally feminines are more easily awake, they are more conscious, they are our guides. We have been experiencing how the feminine guidance with the universal spirit is opening our field of creation. As masculines, we are coming late. We are not late, but we have to learn from their own guidance. Women are human beings with the faculty to bring spirits from the multidimensional universe into organic presence. We all come from one mother, and we have been in the process of gestation in her womb, and we have been coming into this world thanks to their faculty to harbor embryo inside of the body. So that is the connection closer to the universal source. And that is why masculines are taking a little bit longer to get into this awareness, because their emotional intelligence and their spiritual intelligence is advanced and compatible and complementary with our masculine mental intelligence and physical intelligence. The masculine are physically stronger, are the pathfinders, are the guides, the family through the process of evolution. And that is what masculines have been losing through history, because their consciousness, their testosterone has taken the hormonal flow of the pineal gland, the hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland being blinded by that testosterone hormone in competition with the universe. So you won't see much of this feminine energies being in competition with a universal existence, because they are the ones giving this universal existence for humanity. And that is why your projection, the reading of your energies is so important, because from the UK, your infinite expansion, your consciousness is supporting that process of integration in the compatible and complementary energies of the masculine and the feminine. And I'm so grateful for this connection, because you are contributing and facilitating that expansion. We were yesterday in Avila, which is Holy Lands, and there is a strong energy of transformation in that city. And we were planning to speak yesterday, but the spirit needs time to get into that vacuum that we create, just to give a new impulse of the energy. So the reading is that exactly what your soul mission is bringing for humanity, and that is the potential to open that portal into the infinite expansion of our consciousness on the planet. That is my reading for you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So just to share with the audience then, because you mentioned the number 35, but my date of birth is the 30th of the 6th, 1979. So how do you arrive at the... You mentioned some numbers in the last one that we did, the last session, where you were saying about nines to do with angels. Is that correct? Yeah. So yeah, please, if you can elaborate a bit more on that detail, so that the audience can understand how you derived or came to 35, and also how those numbers work.
Yes, everyone can identify their soul mission by the number that they are getting from the birth date. In this divine master plan of human soul liberation, we all have a contribution to facilitate this expansion. So to be aware of your birth date, you only have to add the numbers. You are 30, 6, 19, 79. So 3 plus 6 is a 9, 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 9, 19, plus the 7 is 26, plus 9 is 35.
Ah, okay.
So that is how you get your 35. My birth date is July 30th, 1961. So July is a 7, the 30 is a 3, so 7 and 3, 10, 19 is another 10, that is 20, and 61 is a 7, so it is 27. You divide that by 3, and that is a 999. 3 times 9 is a 27, so that 9 is gives the idea that I'm connected to that angelic mission of my soul. Then you have 30s, which are a 10, and these souls are very much connected to the Akashic records, the spiritual energy field covering Mother Earth, and they are having dreams about spaceships and light, etc., because there is where all these galactic families are connecting. And then you have the 11th, who are archangels, which my brother, for example, whose name is Michael Angel, it is a 33, which is an 11. He's an archangel. And so we are connected to our families, giving us references of how this evidence of what we are doing and the reading of our energies is manifesting clearly in the reality, and what is the purpose of our soul mission on the planet. Then you have the 12, that should be a 36, that should be, on that case, a 9999. 4 times 9 is a 36. So adding all that numbers, I have been in connection with divine mothers who are 4 times 9, and the 4 times 9 is actually the Divine Master Plan code. A Divine Master Plan has a numerical code, which is 9999, and that is the code of completion. Before we complete this divine master plan, we have all these souls contributing to ascend and to advance our consciousness, basically into this understanding. And finally, what I have been experiencing is souls who have the number 13, and that is the 39. The 3913 is the multidimensional portals. These are feminines with a very powerful energy of transformation, opening portals between dimensions, and their soul missions are facilitating for us to understand how we are connecting through the life experience between dimensions. I know a couple of these ladies, not yet any masculine, but there might be masculines probably listening to this video, and they can recognize their potential and hopefully the recognition of their own sovereign noble mission on earth, because that 39 number, that 13, is the ultimate portal between dimensions. The person who I'm co-creating in this moment has gone through a very heavy life mission, and it's a person that she had an accident with 23, 24 years old, and she was 1 month in coma. That 1 month in coma means that her soul was transcending to a higher dimensional level, and her body was here. The doctor's diagnosis was that she was not going to make it, but her soul mission was bringing her back, just to create this understanding and the guidance, and for me, through her life, to understand what she is doing. She has been, her brother was passing June 11th this year, and that interdimensional portal is enabling us to recognize the soul of her brother in higher dimensions, guiding us to confirm that this interdimensional connection of her life, her soul, is actually an evidence. Yesterday we were in Avila, as I told you, and there are very high divine feminine energies of transformation there. And at night when we were coming, we saw in the sky an aligned number of stars, very bright stars, all in alignment, that was looking like a chakra system, just coming exactly from the position where Avila was in relation with our position. We were both stopping the car and jumping out the car, looking into that effect. But that was just what we needed to see for us to confirm the evidence of what was happening yesterday, is that alignment between souls. And your reading, the reading of your mission, your soul, sovereign noble soul mission, is actually opening that alignment between masculines in the UK and Spain and Portugal, just to co-create this reality for humankind. And you are in that process too. That is my reading.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so I can concur as well in terms of, yes, I have had dreams with being, seeing obviously extraterrestrial craft, often it's cloaked, with an outline, and, seeing through it, but it moving and being able to see. I've been on the outside of one of these craft in space, I haven't recalled a dream where I've been inside the craft necessarily with beings, but I've had multiple dreams, obviously involving extra, terrestrial sort of, sort of experiences and with the UFO, and it's always beautiful, and I'm always in absolute awe, and to see the craft, and I had one not so long ago, and also I had one actually within a couple of days of connecting with Rick Dewars, it was in the dream. He was in the dream with his divine partner, who I wasn't even aware he had a partner, but Femka. And
Yeah.
I hadn't sort of met Rick. I'm not sure if he actually looked as Rick looks in the dream, but it was Rick, and I was seeing Craft again there. So that was quite powerful. But yeah, I've had some fantastic sort of dreams, like and being able to see. Or have experiences where I've had a dream and there's been obviously incredible synchronicities linked to the dreams I've had, and I've had experience as well where part of my awakening process, or a massive shift in my awakening process, occurred after my father passed away. Um,
Okay.
and we were having a conversation in the car, and he's obviously passed away. And I suddenly realised that, hang on a minute, you've passed. How are we having this conversation? We must be dreaming. And he was like, well, no, I don't think so. So I said, well, but you're not here. And I said, pinch me, see if I'm dreaming. And he pinched me, and I felt the pinch, but I didn't wake up. And I said, well, but you're not here. And he said to me, son, he said, we're here. Let's just enjoy this moment whilst we can. And to the point where I actually, the dream kind of wandered off to the point where I actually, I saw police at the side of the vehicle, and I got out to go over them to say, what's the date? What time? What year are we in? Because I knew that I was in another dimension. I was in another dimension, yeah. Anyway, and then when I woke up from that dream, I had that immense sense of peace, because obviously I knew that I would see my father again, and I would be connected with him again,
Beautiful.
and
Excellent.
it was amazing. So that was very, very powerful. But yeah, and so dreams, I do have some very extraordinary, strange dreams. Sometimes not particularly pleasant ones. As I shared earlier, I'm involving a certain individual who people know very well, putting a piece of metal in my neck to give me a medical intervention that I wasn't wanting at the beginning of the latest.
Yeah, with the
So
health of
yeah,
humanity.
yeah. It's very, very powerful, and also in my time with that as well, I mean, one experience which was very, very powerful, and this was quite interesting, was just that I was walking actually to my mother's house. I'd put my vehicle in for servicing, and I got on the bus. I waited for a bus, which I've got on buses to go to a house from where I was. It's only a 10-minute drive, but I was feeling a bit lazy, and I was obviously wasn't concentrating. I got on this bus, and it was the wrong bus. And instead of just going up the road, it turned left. So I quickly realised I got on the wrong bus, and I jumped off. And as I was walking, at that point, I thought, oh well, I guess I'll just walk then. It's a 20-minute walk, so what? Yeah. But I was having then this playing around with this my imagination, feeling a bit lazy, thinking, oh, I could stop someone. This was just me daydreaming. I could stop someone and just say, look, I know this sounds really lazy, but would you mind just giving me a lift up the road for 5 minutes? And it was just a silly daydream. But then as I had that daydream, I also thought, oh, you'd have to be a bit careful about pulling people over, because they might be a psychopath or they might try and rob you. Anyway, later on that day, I ended up going around to a good friend of mine's house for a barbecue, and my friend was there, my oldest friend was there, and with his wife, who was Venezuelan, who I hadn't met yet, I don't think at this point, or maybe I had met her. But anyway, he said to me, oh, Grace, tell him about the corruption over in Venezuela. Tell him about that story. And so she went on to say, oh yeah, it's really corrupt. You've got to be careful. There was one time where we were driving down the road, and then there was this person who was a woman who looked like she was innocent, pulling us over, saying her car wasn't working, and then people jumped out of the bush, and then they stole our car. And that actually, I was shocked actually, because as I was having that daydream earlier, that was a scenario that I had playing out, was that someone might pretend to be innocent, and I was thinking about this occurring elsewhere in the world, and I had that actual vision. Now, the thing is because I had that daydream that afternoon, and then she came out with it, I connected it, like I knew that I had had a premonition of this kind of scenario communication, whereas actually it became quite clear to me that people often have daydreams, and they think of things and they see things, and because there's so much time that lapses before the event occurs, or something that's relating to it synchronized, they don't make
Mhm.
any connection with it. They never realize that actually they were using their mind's eye, they were seeing things. So yeah, that was, but it was shocking. I was like, literally, oh my God, have I been taking drugs or something? What's going on?
It
Um,
is.
yeah, it
Mhm.
was quite phenomenal. But yeah, so there's other things that have occurred as well, and I could go into more detail. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to what I was just saying.
No, well, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's just a reflection, actually, of what is happening. The soul journeys during dream and dream time are a sequence that is reproducing in the reality. So many of these dreams that we are perceiving are advanced consciousness, which is imprinted of download in our soul while we are dreaming. And that reality is happening during the day, which is connecting the sequence because our soul is not sleeping. The soul is constantly in this universal flow of consciousness, advancing in evolution. So when we get into this superfluidity of the soul in universal consciousness, your dream can be or a projection of what happened the day before, of all memories, of downloads, of realities that you are about to experience in your day life. And that is beautiful when it happens individually, but you can have also in duality. If you are speaking about this reality, you make it real. And when you get a confirmation of a reflection of someone saying, yes, that is how it's happening, because that's the evidence of how our sovereign noble souls are receiving information and creating reality, then you have a whole expansion into consciousness for other souls to realize that what they are going through is not something that they have to keep from themselves because they are afraid to tell. People
Mm,
are mostly afraid to tell these experiences because they are not finding anyone who can share this sovereign noble soul reality. And when we share this reality, then we open that potential for other souls. If they didn't go previously through this reality, to enable their mind to say, oh, this can happen. So that is an activation of souls, and that is the potential to your soul mission, actually,
mm,
that after the reading in real time, you are activating that infinite potential to get into our divine consciousness for the civilization from the masculine perspective. And that's very important, Donovan, because masculines are mostly sleeping because of that testosterone blocking that hormonal flow in the brain, because the masculine are afraid to fail. I think that from the masculine perspective, we have to face this reality and understanding that the Homo sapiens has failed his mission on Earth, and we are here just to recover our dignity and our masculine sovereignty for this planet to bring exactly your mission, that infinite potential of expansion of consciousness for the civilization, because that is our mission. We are here to recover that dignity, that confidence, that trust in ourselves, in pure soul transparency, opening in a constructive dialogue without fear to be ourselves, and without fear to speak our experiences, and without fear to face our universal existence and reality, because that is the failure, the historic failure of some people in the past that were afraid to face this universal reality because they could not comprehend the dynamics of the sovereign noble soul. And that is what we are recovering. That's the healthy way to recover our own hormonal flow, putting all these chakras structure aligned between pure reflections, and that's very important. Thank
yeah.
you so much.
Thank you. So just very, very quickly, we haven't got much time, but just to add again, it's absolutely right. With the synchronicities that that occur in people's lives, the masculine often putting it down to coincidence, which is obviously the pre-programming and all the rest of it, and of course. I've made a big point always about sharing,
Mm.
these synchronicities as I've witnessed them, throughout my life, and it's been just happening more and more, of course, over the last 12 years,
Mhm.
which is where again big part of my or 14 years actually, having had an experience of witnessing, actual UFO. Like, so I
Mm.
had two scenarios. I've actually got a picture on my timeline people can have a look at of a
Okay.
photograph where I was in Borneo, where my partner, my divine partner Mary, is from, and from the hotel room, I took a couple of photographs within about 30 seconds of each other, possibly. It was a new camera I was using. I didn't realize, or I hadn't figured out how to turn the flash off, and I didn't need the flash because it was still light. And it wasn't until afterwards, so on the next day, that I was looking through the photographs, I saw that there was the tip of a saucer in one part of the picture, and then it was there in the other. It was traveling through the space, and it was
Yeah,
probably cloaked, but the flash revealed it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and we also, my partner and I, we also witnessed before that in 2009. We saw, certainly an unexplainable object, whether it was a man-made reverse engineered craft, but it was going vertically straight up into outer space. It wasn't going across. There was no way it was a satellite. And it went right up out of
Yeah, yeah,
our space and time. So yeah, that was phenomenal. So obviously, again, my awakening process generally has been throughout my whole life. Of course, as I look back, I can see that now.
yeah.
From my young age when I was 7 or 8, kind of completely finding it extraordinary how we had billionaires out there, very rich people, and then there was the poor African children starving to death, and how that was just totally not right, and resonating with that and being very upset with that. And when I
Mhm.
was 18, my first proper girlfriend, who was Swedish,
Oh,
sitting with her watching TV, and then an advert came on of orphans in Africa starving to death, and actually it brought tears to my eyes. And she actually turned around to me and she said, "Why are you crying over them? You don't cry over me." And but it actually, and I was like, "Well, you're okay. We're okay. Look at these poor children. I mean, this is not right." And it really kind of resonated with me. So my process of awakening was happening obviously throughout my life at different points, and there was other things that occurred which are very intimate I could share with you another time. But ultimately, yeah, the development obviously really crescendoed again from 30 onwards, and I was becoming, obviously I was working for myself. I was freed from the rat race. I
mhm.
was experiencing things, the struggle of actually trying to just do, be in service to people and do something really high quality, but then obviously finding the system itself was actually
Mhm.
trying to prevent good
Yeah,
people from doing good things.
yeah, exactly.
Even in finance or in the economics of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's absolutely fascinating what you're sharing there. And very quickly, this story I'll just finish up with before we close, which my partner Mary gets fed up with me sharing this all the time, because it's one I've repeatedly shared many times now. But essentially, we were about, must be 9 years ago now. We were basically, I had a dream. I'd fallen asleep and woken up on a Sunday morning, went back to sleep, and then I had a very vivid dream. And in that
Mhm.
dream, I was basically in a garden, which when I recalled the dream, when I woke up, I recognized it as being my oldest friend's garden. I used to go around there as a child, and we'd play in the garden, and the garden
Mhm.
backed onto some playing fields, and I have fond memories of that. But in the dream, it was my garden, and this is how dreams and different dimensions, they kind of play with you a bit. But essentially, in the dream, I was in the garden and I was on the phone to a friend of mine who was another good friend. And he was asking me about my services that I provide, as a business. I run a carpet cleaning company. He was like saying, "Oh, would you travel to Oxford to do a job?" Now, Oxford is like a good 2.5 hour drive from me. I wouldn't normally go there; it's too far. But I said, "Well, if it's a big enough job, I would travel there, but I'd have to let you know what I would charge for that." So anyway, as I got off the phone, a plane was taking off from this field behind. In the dream, in this dimension, there wasn't just a playing field; there was planes. So anyway, I
Mhm.
watched a plane take off, and it actually went vertically up like a rocket, and then it came down. And there was a big crash, and all the rest of it. I ran into the house, and Mary was in the kitchen, not perturbed or worried about a big explosion in the back. She was just doing, tidying up or what have you.
Mhm.
So anyway, that was the sum of the dream. I suddenly realised just towards the end, oh, I must get back to my friend about whether or not I would go to Oxford to do this carpet cleaning job.
Anyway.
So anyway, on the Sunday, as I've woken up from the dream, my actual friend who was in the dream on the phone asking me if I would go to Oxford, he was coming round with his wife to watch a film. And so we watched this film and we got halfway through and we decided to break for a coffee. And the film that we were watching was actually called Total Recall. So, which is interesting because then at that halfway point, I said, "Oh, I've got to tell you about this dream. You were in it. It was really weird." And so I started to tell him about this dream. And as I was telling him about the dream and I was almost finished, his wife was looking at me and she was like really kind of very, you know, thinking something weird going on here. And I was like, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "You're not getting on a plane and you're worried it's going to crash." She said, "No, you're freaking me out." I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because we've just been speaking," and this is to our other friends that were in the group of friends that we know, who we often spend a lot of time with, about going to Oxford. We were just speaking to them about it yesterday. And so I picked up on a connection between Will, who was my friend, who was in the dream, asking me about who was there with me on this when I was telling him about it, and his wife. I picked up on them having a communication about going to Oxford. I never dream about Oxford, you know. And so that was quite weird. And now it was for her, it was like, "Oh, well, you weren't supposed to know about that." We can't obviously keep anything from you because you could pick up things. That was weird. And actually, as where I've moved to now, which is somewhere completely different, it turns out, and I didn't know this, but there's a field about 500 meters from me where there's planes that do take off and they go on and off. And the house I'm living in, the way it's structured and organized is exactly the same format as the garden of my friend in his house. So I picked up on that. Yeah. And yes, I just had many kind of very, very extraordinary things that I'll share with you separately again, because I've told other stories already many times. But yeah, these things are here for us to be able to open up the minds and the hearts to people to realize who we really are, what we're here to do. And that these aren't just coincidences. They are here as part of the awakening process. And as I've shared these stories with one of my oldest friends, before, who is, you know, still some way off his awakening process, he has begun to awaken. He calls me now and says, "Oh, you're not going to believe this happened. That can't be a coincidence." And he never used to do that, you know. This is why it's important that we do it more. People start to being open to seeing it more, because you will see it more the more you become open to it.
That is the evidence of who we are, actually. So that is with no restriction. When we are opening transparency, we don't have anything to hide. Our level of consciousness is connected openly with other people alike and friends and other souls who we are sharing this existence. So that was initially the purpose of the entire pyramid, to connect the entire globe in that global consciousness and with the universe. And we are doing this now by this artificial network of satellites enable us to communicate in transparency. So that's the evidence of who we are. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank you so much. And until the next time, thank you, Juan Jose.
Thank you, Donovan.
Gracias, and I'll speak to you again soon. Love and light.
Thank you very much. Love you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.